Most cruise content on the internet exists to make you feel good about booking. It's enthusiastic, it's scenic, and it is, almost without exception, trying to sell you something, even when it pretends it isn't. Cruisality is something different. This channel exists to make sure you actually understand what you're booking before you book it. We're going to cover the things the industry doesn't advertise, the questions the glossy brochures don't answer, and the decisions that separate a genuinely good cruise experience from an expensive disappointment. Welcome. Let's get into it. The overwhelm is real. You decided you want to go on a cruise. Maybe someone you know went and came back glowing. Maybe you've always been curious. Maybe you're just tired of the same hotel formula, and you want something genuinely different. So you open a browser, and then the questions start. Which cruise line? Which ship? Which itinerary? Inside cabin or balcony? Should you pay for the drinks package up front? What even is a port-intensive itinerary versus a relaxed one? Why does the same cabin cost 3 different prices on 3 different websites? Here's the thing, that confusion is not accidental. The cruise industry is extraordinarily good at manufacturing urgency and complexity simultaneously. Limited time offers, flash sales, cabin categories with names like Ocean View Deluxe and Superior Vista that tell you absolutely nothing useful. So before we talk about any specific cruise, ship, or destination, we need to talk about how to think about this decision. Because right now, most people are asking the wrong questions entirely. What kind of experience are you actually buying? The most common mistake first-time cruisers make is choosing a destination before they choose a cruise line. The destination matters, yes, but it matters far less than most people think. Because the ship is where you will spend the majority of your time, and different cruise lines are selling fundamentally different products. Let's break this down honestly. At one end of the spectrum, you have mass market lines: Carnival, Royal Caribbean, MSC, Norwegian. These are high-volume, high-energy ships. Think of them as floating resorts. There are thousands of passengers on board. There are water slides, casinos, live shows, food courts, and a particular kind of organized chaos that a lot of people genuinely love. The price point is accessible. The experience is unambiguously loud. If you want entertainment infrastructure and a social atmosphere, this is your category. Step up and you reach premium lines: Celebrity, Holland America, Princess. Less frenetic. Better food, on average. A slightly older demographic. More emphasis on the itinerary. More emphasis on the actual destination. Not quiet, but quieter. Then there's luxury. Regent Seven Seas, Oceania, Viking. The price jumps significantly. In return, you get smaller ships, better service ratios, higher quality dining, and an experience that centers the destination rather than the vessel. And at the far end, ultra-luxury and expedition, Silversea, Seabourn, Pernod. These ships carry a few hundred passengers, sometimes fewer. They access ports that larger ships physically cannot reach. The Galapagos, Antarctica, remote Norwegian fjords. The experience is intimate, expert-led, and priced accordingly. None of these is objectively better than the others, but they are not interchangeable. Choosing the wrong tier for your personality and travel style is probably the single most common source of cruise disappointment. So, what kind of holiday do you actually want to have? That question has to come before any other. Ship size changes everything. Once you've identified the tier of cruise line that suits you, the next variable is ship size, and it's more consequential than most people realize. The largest cruise ships in the world currently carry somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 passengers. To put that in perspective, that is a small city, floating. The onboard infrastructure to support that many people, the restaurants, the pools, the elevators, the corridors, is genuinely impressive. And if you want variety, if you want to never run out of things to do on sea days, a megaship like Icon or Star of the Seas delivers that. But size comes with trade-offs. The first is port access. The largest ships cannot dock in many of the world's most interesting ports. Instead, they anchor offshore and tender passengers to land by small boat. That process takes time. In practice, it can mean 90 minutes of waiting in queue before you set foot ashore. In rough sea conditions, tendering is sometimes cancelled entirely. The second trade-off is atmosphere. A ship carrying 7,000 people has a certain energy to it. One that some passengers love and others find exhausting. The pool is busy. The buffet has queues. The elevator lobbies have traffic. Smaller ships, carrying 500 to 2,000 passengers, trade variety for intimacy. Fewer amenities, yes, but also better access to smaller, less visited ports, a calmer atmosphere, and an experience where you're more likely to recognize faces by day 3. Neither is wrong, but knowing which environment suits you means you won't be unpleasantly surprised. Itinerary logic, what ports actually mean. Here is a number worth keeping in mind when you're looking at itineraries. 8 hours. That is approximately how long you will spend ashore in each port on a typical cruise. Sometimes a little more, sometimes significantly less. Rarely more than 10. This matters because a lot of first-time cruisers see an itinerary: Barcelona, Marseille, Rome, Athens, Dubrovnik, and experience something close to euphoria. 5 countries in 7 days. The efficiency of it is intoxicating, but what 8 hours actually gets you in a city like Rome is a transfer to the city centre, roughly 4 to 5 hours of actual time ashore, and a transfer back to the ship before all aboard. You will not see Rome. You will see a version of Rome, briefly and partially, alongside thousands of other cruise passengers who arrived on the same ships that morning. That is not necessarily a bad thing. A taster is still a taster. And for many people, particularly those who are new to international travel, the cruise format offers a genuinely useful introduction to a region. You identify the places you want to return to and spend proper time in. But go in clear-eyed about what you're getting. Also consider, how many sea days does the itinerary include? Sea days, days spent entirely at sea, with no port, divide people sharply. Some passengers love them, some find them frustrating. Knowing your preference before you book will save you from a week that feels either rushed or idle. The cabin decision, and why it's not just about the view. The cabin hierarchy on a cruise ship goes: inside, ocean view, balcony, suite, and most first-timers assume the goal is to get as high up that list as their budget allows. That logic is understandable. It's also slightly wrong. Let's start with inside cabins. No window, no natural light. For some people, this is a non-starter, and not just for aesthetic reasons. If you have any tendency toward claustrophobia, or you simply need a psychological sense of space and air, an inside cabin will feel oppressive within 24 hours. That's worth knowing before you're 3 days into the Atlantic. For others, particularly those who intend to spend most of their time in ports or public spaces on board, an inside cabin is entirely sufficient. The price difference between an inside and a balcony cabin can be several $100s. That money could pay for 2 or 3 independent shore excursions instead. Balconies are genuinely valuable in ways that go beyond the obvious. Yes, there's the view, but there's also fresh air on demand, which matters more than you'd expect after a few days at sea. There's watching a port city materialize on the horizon at 6 in the morning from your own private space. There's the particular quiet of sitting outside at midnight when the ship is moving and the stars are overhead and the water is black. These are not small things. For certain itineraries, Alaska, the Norwegian Fjords, the Caribbean at dawn, a balcony transforms the experience. For a port-intensive Mediterranean run where you're rarely on the ship in daylight, the calculation changes. Now, here's the variable most people overlook entirely: location on the ship. Midship cabins experience significantly less motion than cabins at the bow or stern. If you have any susceptibility to seasickness, book midship. But motion isn't the only consideration. You also do not want to be directly below the pool deck, which sees early morning activity. You do not want to be adjacent to the nightclub if you intend to sleep before 2 a.m. Crew corridors and service areas bring their own noise patterns. This is why reading the ship's deck plan before booking is not optional. It's one of the most practical things a first-time cruiser can do. Deck plans are publicly available for every major ship. Study where your cabin sits relative to everything above, below, and beside it. The 30 minutes you spend doing that could be the difference between a cabin you love and one you endure. The real cost of a cruise. The price you see advertised for a cruise is not the price you will pay. This is not a criticism. It's a structural reality of how cruise pricing works, and understanding it will make you a considerably more informed buyer. Here is what is typically not included in the headline fare. Gratuities. Most mainstream cruise lines add a daily service charge per person, typically somewhere between $15 and $25 per day per person. On a 7-night sailing for 2, that's an additional $200 to $350 before you've bought a single drink. Drinks, alcohol, specialty coffees, and often soft drinks beyond basic water and juice are charged separately. Drinks packages exist, and working out whether they represent value requires you to honestly assess your own habits. Specialty dining. Most ships have upcharge restaurants beyond the standard included dining rooms. Optional, but the quality difference is sometimes significant. Wi-Fi. Almost universally an add-on. Satellite internet at sea is expensive and variable in quality. Shore excursions. The ship's own excursion packages are convenient, but frequently marked up. Independent alternatives are worth researching. Now, 2 things that almost never get mentioned. Solo traveler pricing. Cruise lines sell cabins by occupancy, not by the cabin itself. The default assumption is 2 people sharing. If you are traveling alone, you will typically be charged a single supplement, often an additional 50 to 100% on top of the per-person fare. In practice, a solo traveler can end up paying the equivalent of 2 fares for 1 person. Some lines have introduced dedicated solo cabins to address this, but they are limited in number and book quickly. If you are traveling solo, this surcharge needs to be part of your calculation from the beginning. Onboard spending creep. The ship is a self-contained commercial environment, and it is exceptionally well designed to separate you from money, particularly when your guard is down. The casino. Spa treatments that are offered at every turn and priced accordingly. Photography packages. Art auctions. Everything charged invisibly to your room card, which means you rarely feel the money leaving. Holidaymakers in a relaxed state, with easy payment mechanisms, tend to spend more than they planned. That is not an accident. Budget deliberately before you board. We'll be going much deeper on the true economics of a cruise, including the psychological mechanics of onboard spending, in a dedicated episode. Consider this, the orientation. The questions to ask before you book. Before we close, here is what all of this distills to. Not a checklist, a framework. These are the questions that, answered honestly, make the right cruise choice almost obvious. Who am I traveling with? And what does that mean for this trip? Are you going solo, as a couple, with family, with children, with friends who have different energy levels and different budgets? The answer shapes everything from cabin configuration to cruise line choice to how you'll actually spend your time ashore. What is the purpose of this trip? Is this a celebration, an anniversary, a milestone birthday, a honeymoon? Is it a proper escape from daily life, where you want to be unreachable and unhurried? Or is it a first foray into a region, a way of sampling several destinations before committing to returning to any of them? Knowing the objective of the trip before you book means you can choose a product that actually delivers it. What do I want to feel on this holiday? This one matters more than it might sound. Some people want stimulation, entertainment, socializing, activity. Others want stillness. Others want a sense of discovery. A cruise can provide all of these things, but not every cruise provides all of them equally. Knowing what you're genuinely chasing, not what sounds appealing in the abstract, is the honest starting point. What is my actual budget? Not the advertised price. The real number with gratuities, drinks, excursions, souvenirs, the solo supplement if applicable, and a contingency for the things you didn't plan to spend money on but will. What do I not know yet? The cruise industry has a language, a set of conventions, and a range of genuine traps for first-time buyers. The more questions you bring to this decision, the better the decision will be. That's what this channel is here for. Cruisality exists to give you the complete picture, not the version the industry prefers you to see. If you're in the process of booking your first cruise, or you're still figuring out whether cruising is even right for you, drop your questions in the comments below. Tell us what's confusing you, what you're considering, or what your own first booking experience was like. We read everything, and your questions shape what we cover next. There's a lot more to get into. We'll see you in the next one.